live. Thank you so much for tuning in to RaulyKnows podcast. Today we have Olga, the Houston's own. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
My name is Olga Torres. I'm 24, originally from Houston, but I grew up in Vegas. I went to school in New York, and
yeah. So she's a little modest, right? So she went to school she went to law school. So in today's podcast, we're going to be speaking a little bit about her journey on why she chose law and a little bit of things that she knows that obviously we normal folk don't know. We're going to speak a little bit about the protests that are going on right now. But with that being said, you're from Houston. You grew up in Vegas. You went to high school here.
Yeah.
It's very big. Honestly, like you're not too many people that I know graduated from law school. So congratulations to you. Like, a little round of applause for you. And so right now you're studying for the bar, or what's going on?
So right now I'm studying for the bar. It was supposed to be at the end of July, but COVID, so they pushed it back till September. So we're just studying right now.
What does the bar, like, why do they call it the bar? Or like,
it's really I don't remember why they call it the bar, but it's just a hard test. It's like 2 days, 6 hours each day, and then it's multiple choice writing, and then after that you have to like basically pass. It's character and fitness, but it's basically just like a background check to make sure like you're
okay. So basically you have to pass it to become a lawyer officially.
So when you graduate law school, and you pass all your classes, whatever, you're a lawyer, but you can't like represent people until after you pass the bar, and then you're called an attorney.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're a lawyer now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tight, man. I know a lawyer. So, being that you're a lawyer, you're very familiar with the laws, like how do you feel about like what's going on right now and the whole like protesting and stuff?
Oh, what a question. It's just been a big buildup. Like, I feel like it's very necessary because I hope this is like the last time we have to do it, but I think that the protests that are happening are like needed just to show like how many people like recognize the problem, and like that the people want it. It's not just like one group or like one small, I think it's important just to like show that. Because like they're definitely needed, change is needed, like, and it's not just like one area of like, it's not just the criminal system that needs change, but like that's like what we're focused on right now, I guess, but it's like everything needs change. So
definitely. And I mean like if people have been hiding under a rock, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the protests, like what caused it.
Yeah.
But would you like to give a little insight of what caused it?
Well, I think so. What caused it? I would say that the George Floyd was the tipping point. It's not like an isolated event, but like I think it was very, like it was important because everybody literally seen it. It was recorded. Everybody seen him get murdered on camera, and like nothing was happening. So I think that was the tipping point, because not only has this been going on for like years and years and years, but we've all been like isolated. There's literally nothing for us to do right now. So like we've all, quarantined, and we're just seeing this and seeing like nothing being done. And so I think that was just really like the tipping point of like what caused all the protests.
Yeah, definitely. I try to keep up with all the things that happen, and especially in our communities, because we're all American here. I don't like what happens most of the time, and I get hurt and I feel some type of way about it. And I definitely feel like this the situation that happened with George Floyd was definitely like the straw that broke the camel's back, that we needed change. Like fuck this, like we need to do something. So I mean, for the most part, the protesting has been peaceful, but when the looting started, like how did you feel about that?
Well, I just think I don't know, it's kind of tough because granted, like the looting isn't what people should be doing at protests. However, like it's problematic when everybody just focuses on the looting. Like, they're just like talking about the looters and then like saying that it's only black people who are doing it, when like that's all wrong. Like, it's everybody's looting, but still, for like some people who like didn't comment on George Floyd's murder or any other murders, like all they have first said was like the looters and all of this. So like that's where like the problem becomes. Like, yes, like people might not, like, you shouldn't be looting, but that's not the only thing. Like, that shouldn't be a person's first response to like the protest. It's like, oh, the looters. Like, no, it's not. Like, that's really not what it's about. And like that's a very, very like small percent of like the people who are protesting. So that's
yeah, definitely. I feel like because of the looting, and I agree. Like, it's a horrible thing, but I mean, some people say it's necessary. Like, I mean, it happened because of the Rodney King. Like, back in, was it 94? Like, what, 96? Around there. We're gonna somebody fact checked in the comments, but it happened in the 90s with Rodney King. He got beat up by police on camera.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like people were enraged and they did what people that are enraged do, and that's fuck shit up. Yeah. But with that being said, like, I feel like the whole looting thing is definitely giving the Black Lives Matter movement like a bad rap. But speaking of that, like, what does the Black Lives Matter mean? Because there's a lot of people that, well, a lot of people that don't know what we're trying to, you know, like, get with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. They obviously try to protest our protests with All Lives Matter, but being that people that don't really understand why people like are against it, why do you think they're against the whole Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, because I think people are against the whole Black Lives Matter movement because in some way, like, it's going to affect them. Not because we're not, with Black Lives Matter, we're not saying like we should be more important than any other group of people. We're saying we should be equal. But whenever we're saying that we should be equal, that means that like people who are above us right now, in air quotations, y'all can't see that, but people who are above us, that means they have to like come down to be equal with us. And like that's where it's problematic because no one wants to give up their privilege. So, like, that's where, like, they're seeing it. And then a lot of people, too, they're just saying, like, oh, like, I'm not racist, like, so I'm not part of the problem. Or, like, they'll say, like, my parents aren't this way. But, again, it's not really, like, individual. It's, like, a whole, like, the system. It's, like, institutionalized. And it's not really a personal thing.
Right, definitely. And with that, like, I definitely see it, you know, like, being that we're all quarantined and stuff, like there's a lot of people posting nonsense on Instagram and social medias, and I'm not afraid to say that like I stopped following and I blocked a bunch of people because of like just how not negative, but just like, well, yeah, it might have been negative, but it's just like the way they think is just so ignorant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's happened a lot with me. Like, I've never been one to argue with people or like engage in like those type of little debates on social media, but like since this time, like I'm like, you know, I have a few times, so I like go back and forth, but at the end of the day, like sometimes I see it's really like kind of pointless because like some people just don't want to see it, like they don't want to accept it, and there's not much that I could do to change their mind, so like I'll just like unfollow them so I don't have to see it.
Yeah, definitely. And so like I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, you know, like there's and there's different situations with different people. I could say a couple examples. But when I was a kid, I had to go through something for me to like want to be something in life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, for example, one of my friends, like his brother got killed in a gang shootout, and he wasn't part of the gang. He was just walking down in Compton and in LA. And because of that, like it triggered him to want to be a police officer to help protect all the, you know, the community and you know, serve and protect. With that being said, like, is there any situation that caused you to like want to become a lawyer?
No. Well, I've always been into like criminal justice just because my mom originally wanted to be a lawyer. That's why we moved out to Vegas originally. Okay. It's like they were doing like some mass hiring, so she moved out here, but she had just had, just a backstory, she had like had surgery on her stomach, so she couldn't pass like the sit-up portion of the test. So like she's always had an interest, and so I've always been like watching CSI and all those shows since I was little. So then when I went to college, I majored in criminal justice, And I really wanted to be a detective, but you can't be a detective without being like patrol.
Right.
I didn't want to be patrol, so that's why I was just like, okay, well, what else? Like, I'm into criminal law, criminal justice, so like there has to be another route for me to help people, and it was just like that.
It
lawyer.
clicked.
Yeah.
And what like made you decide to go to St. John's in New York? Like lost Houston to LA to New York. Like that was a big move.
Well, so originally whenever I was gonna like just start college, I was gonna go to Arizona State. But they
wanted a party.
no, it's just like they gave me like a good scholarship. But they're very close to Vegas, so like I felt maybe like my mom might drive down too much, like I don't know. And then St. John's gave me the same scholarship, like basically the same scholarship as ASU. So I was just like, Arizona or New York? Like I'm going to New York, and that's just why I went.
How cold is it over there?
Crazy. So it's not very cold. Like I don't get cold like easily, but whenever I first moved there, winters were brutal, but like now it wasn't really
you get used
bad
to
this summer. This winter. No, you get used to it, I think, but also it just wasn't bad. Like I think it only snowed like this past winter, like 3 times maybe. And, like, it's crazy because when I first moved there, it snowed like in November, and it was like inches, like a foot of snow, and I was like, climate change.
And like I remember like going to school, like I obviously went a different route than you. I went to CSN here just to start off my general education, and my first class ever was a psychology class. And being that it was a psychology class, it was Miss Watson, I believe, and Miss Watson, Professor Watson, and she was a dope professor. Hopefully, people that are watching this or listening to this like have had her, so they know what I'm talking about. But she's a very like pro, and like she's like very proud, black and proud professor, and she taught us many things. And just being in the topic of psychology, I felt like I learned so much from her, because like not only did she teach me like black history, but black history is American history, so we all have to know it. And it sucks that I was in college and I barely found out about this, but the whole Emmett Till story, you know about the Emmett Till story, right? So Emmett Till, I forget how old he was, but he was a very young kid, and he got he allegedly like whistled at a white woman or white girl, and they hung him, and they beat him up, and like they hung him and stuff. And then like there's pictures of his face and how like deformed he looks from being beat up so bad. And like basically they the mom decided to leave an open casket. And then like I remember it so much, like when she was like, that's gangster as fuck. Like she was like, fuck, like it's fucked up what happened to my baby, but like you guys need to see what the fuck just happened to them.
Yeah, she wanted everybody to see. Just so like, and this was a long time ago, but that happened like I forgot when, but it was a long time ago, but she did it. So because she wanted everybody to like see the horrors.
And it's still happening, like whereas like where if like you're running around, you're just running around the neighborhood trying to get exercise, and then in modern day, like broad daylight on camera, like if it wasn't caught on camera, like it sucks, you know what I mean? Like I don't think anything would have happened.
No, that's like part of the problem is like it, like all these things happen on camera, and we have to go protest, we have to sign all these petitions just to get like the authorities to like look into the case or to take it more seriously, versus like if it happened to another victim of maybe a different race, then it would kind of be automatic. Like no one would have to, like we literally have to like demand justice, and for anybody else that doesn't happen, like it's automatic.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to me how these things can happen. And like I said, like we should it should be taught in schools.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like it's not just Black history; it's American history. Like our history is not that great. Maybe that's why they don't teach it. But
yeah, that's definitely because it's like the Holocaust. They teach it so much because it's not really like America didn't do wrong in the situation. So like they teach it all, like, but this happened like at the same, not the same time, but it's fairly like
around the same timeline.
Yeah, like the same timeline, like. And that's what I forgot who was talking about it, but they were just saying how in schools they should start teaching about Black history before slavery, because that's the only thing we ever learned, like in like elementary or like middle school or whatever. You start like they started slavery. It's like a very little small like.
I honestly don't even remember like learning anything about that in school. See, like, that's how bad it is. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's because it's not even a full day. It's not even like a full chapter. It's like a page or two.
Right. I think. I mean, I might be wrong, but it might be just like the whole, like we don't want to see how dark the United States was.
Yeah, but I mean, we're still obviously we're not like in slavery times, but we're still like in a form of it. So like I feel like it's still important to teach it. But like you said, I really think it's because it's like blood on America's hands. It's like it's very dark, and they just don't want to inform everybody. Like it's like the same system. Like, you know, they make us Pledge of Allegiance, and like we don't even know what that means yet. Like we're like, because I remember like when I went to school in Texas, we have to say the Pledge of Allegiance, then we have to say the Texas like allegiance. I think that's what it's called. I don't know what it's called, but you have to say all these things, and like we don't really even know what they mean. But like you won't teach us like things that actually happen. Like I don't know, it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, with that everything that's happening, and I've slightly been noticing differences of like of all the protesting. Like I've been seeing little things, you know, like I think today like 4 or 5, I'm not gonna, everybody's president, not mine, but he signed an executive order for the police to start like treating their communities with like respect or something. I don't know like what. Yeah. Like he had to do an executive order, and you could tell like he was like, this is some bullshit.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing too, like with that, because I didn't like read it or like all of it, but I know like part of it is like he said police officers can no longer use chokeholds unless they feel like their life's in danger. So we're like, well, that's not going to change anything.
Yeah, it's not really going to change
like,
anything.
That's the first thing the cop always says is like, oh,
my life was in danger.
Yeah, so we're just like, I don't really know like how much of like change his little executive orders.
Yeah, definitely. By any chance, did you get to see that Chappelle segment he had?
Yeah.
How'd you feel about it? I felt like it was very needed.
No, it was needed, and I think that it was coming from him. It was also like, I don't have a word for it, but I think it was very appreciated coming from him because like obviously he's a jokester, but like for him to like to pause and just like talk about it, like using his platform was like super needed. And you know, like his crowds are usually pretty diverse, so like that's also why it was important for him to do it and then to put it out. And like it's not, whenever the way he did it, he wasn't making light of the situation, but he made it understandable for everybody. Like literally there's so many like outlets like you could go to like learn more about the issue, and like him just being another one for, you know, just anybody, like literally anybody can understand what he was saying. So I liked it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he actually got a lot of backlash from doing it, and mostly the comedy like standpoint. Like there's a lot of comedians that are like, well, it wasn't funny, like what the fuck was the point of doing that?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I'm glad he did it because he has a platform, like you said, and a lot of people that don't even want to look into news articles or whatever, they're not even gonna like give it the time of day, but because it's Dave Chappelle, like they'll probably listen. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people saw a bunch of things that they didn't know, or like they just never read upon, because that's mostly what ignorance happens. Like it's like you don't know what you're talking about, but you think you do, and you don't have any concrete evidence, or I'm talking like a lawyer right now. You don't have any evidence to back up your claims, and that's how people mostly are nowadays. Like they talk out of their side of their neck, and they think they're right most of the time, and just get your facts straight. And just with him saying like all the things he said on his little segment, because I don't think I wouldn't consider it a stand-up.
No, yeah, that's why I was like, I don't think it, because it literally like there weren't any jokes, but so I think it was like a pause out of it, because I think he was doing a show, but I think it might have been.
Yeah, it might have been, yeah, because I watched a podcast on I forgot who it was, but he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he mentioned, excuse me. He mentioned that Chappelle was actually doing a show, so I'm pretty sure in between, like doing his show, that was just what he released, so people can know what the fuck's going on, because it's a pretty fucked up world we live in right now, and it needs definitely like things need to be changed.
Yeah, but that's also why I appreciate it too, because like they're making it like all these companies and people are like making it so easy for people to learn about it. Like you go watch Dave Chappelle if that's how you want to get your information. You go watch like Hulu and well, I don't know if Amazon did, but like I know for sure like Hulu and Amazon Prime, like they have banners. They have banners at the front, so like you literally just click it and like it'll give you movies and documentaries on like.
Oh yeah, they have their own what's it called, genre kind of, right?
Yeah, so like it's so easy to like get informed at these times, and so like that's really why like if anybody's still talking like ignorantly or anything of that nature, it's just like really like a matter of like they don't want to learn about it, they don't want to change.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that he brought up a lot like about police brutality, because that's mostly what's going on right now. And because of that, like there's a big movement in Minnesota that they want to defund the police. So how do you feel about that?
I support the defunding of police only because they get so much funding, and I didn't even realize how much money they got until like some people like have been calling them out. Like I can't remember. I'm trying to think of Clark County, like what the police here get, but it's absurd how much money they get compared to like our school district. Like it, like we have like some like the worst education in the country, and so the fact that people still aren't like funding CCSD is kind of crazy. And then you see like these cops, they get so much money, and it doesn't make sense because I don't know. I just don't think it's necessary, especially whenever you look at their expenses and then all this like paid overtime. Like there's some officers who like I'm not saying like they shouldn't get paid that much, but like there's some officers who get paid like with overtime like $100K a year, and like that's absurd. Like it's absurd just because like that's all from overtime, whereas like teachers get paid way less than that,
and they do overtime.
Yeah, and they do they do a lot of overtime. They buy things out of their pockets, and I don't know. I just don't think like the money's being like properly allocated.
And because of that, a lot of people would think that defund means to eradicate the fucking police. So like that does not mean like get rid of the fucking police. No. Like there would be no order. But like I noticed that a lot of like people, talk the side of their neck, and then they just start saying shit that doesn't make sense. But basically what they want to do is they just want to cut the budget for the police and then put more into schooling and infrastructure. And what infrastructure means, like fixing roads, adding more transportation, and making the communities better instead of just investing in all these police after which I mean I'm all for like police like being there. Like if something happens to me, I'm gonna call 911. You know what I mean? But like I do agree with like maybe they should probably the system's definitely broken. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I agree with maybe cutting the budget because they cut schools first. And the thing about being from Nevada, well, not from, well, my hometown is Las Vegas. I was raised here. I was born in LA, but being that Nevada is the worst when it comes to education, like it kind of like you take a step back and you think about it and you're like, wow, why? I wonder why. And that's solely because like we make money off of casinos. Yeah. We make money off of, bringing tourists and, hospitality and stuff. So I feel like Nevada, like, oh, well, we're not gonna, invest in our education because at the end of the day, like we want these people to be housekeepers. We want these people to be stewards. We want people like, clean the trash and, do all the like hotel stuff. And it's definitely a lot of jobs to fill. And I just feel like it's kind of wrong because you take a step back and you pay attention, like that's basically what's going on. Yeah,
especially here because like I don't know, I just remember like growing up, they didn't really tell us about many like career things here. It was kind of just like a hospitality route. You could be like public, like a cop or something, a teacher, like the normal ones, but like that's it. There's no really like guidance. And then I don't know if it's because like we went to Valley with H&T, but literally like those were like the only jobs I remember them telling me about was like in the casinos and like hotel managers or whatever it is. So like that's also like that's just a whole separate like issue too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you just finished law school. I wish you nothing but the best and good luck on your test, on your bar exam. Is there anything that you're working on that you would like to share, or like you maybe?
Oh yeah. So sorry. So me and my friend Charnice, we just started. It's Liberated Las Vegas, and so it's just liberatedlasvegas.com, and then on there we're gonna have. Well, we're trying to do like Black-owned businesses in Vegas, but also like if you could buy online, we're gonna put them on the website. So we're listing like restaurants here that are Black-owned and like bookstores, like clothing stores, anything. So I would say for you guys to check it out. And then if you're like a Black business owner or entrepreneurs, like hair, nails, anything, just you could go on the website and then like submit yourself in the comments, and then we'll add you to the website.
What's the website called again?
Liberatedlasvegas.com.
And what are your handles if you want to share them?
My handles are Olga M. Torres on everything.
Olga M. Torres on Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, that's all.
That's all. On Tinder. Nah, that's fine. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today and speaking on a very hard topic to speak about. And like I said, we wish you all good, like a lot of luck on your bar exam, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna pass it. And thank you so much for joining us at the RaulyKnows podcast, and we're out.
Thank you.